Funerals have been going on since the dawn of time, and it's only in the last perhaps 40 years in the United States, especially, but Western civilization in general, that funerals have become optional. This would simply not have been logistically possible for most of human history because humans dealt with the idea of death and dying by dealing with dead bodies themselves. We actually had to move them from the place of death to perhaps the place of vigil or visitation to the place of worship or the holy sanctuary or temple, and then, of course, to the place of disposition, whether that be earth or fire or what have you. And all of these things took not just one, professional firm or person, but a community of people, a community that came together to deal with this reality as a group. And so the idea that you could sit it out or that it would not be something to witness was unheard of. So funerals, I always say, more than anything else, are the way that human beings traditionally deal with the idea of something is to deal with the thing itself, and that is dead bodies. And so funerals give us the opportunity, religiously, spiritually, psychologically, socially. There's a lot of adverbs to be had to process this new reality together. And it doesn't mean just grief and sadness. It can mean storytelling and laughter and reconciliation and the expressions of confusion or anger. And to me, it's hard to emphasize enough the importance of it. I'm biased. I'm a funeral director, and I come from a family of funeral directors. But I think it's something that culturally is key. I also think that it points to other realities within our society and culture. So, for example, one could argue that the way in which the dead are treated in our society, being that they are so vulnerable, is going to always correlate, whether we like it or not, to the way the most vulnerable among us are treated. This could be the elderly, children, the mentally ill, the addicted, refugees. There's lots of vulnerable demographics among us. And if we start to treat the dead as just sort of a wasteful afterthought to be disposed of, I think we're more likely as a society to treat other vulnerable populations in that way. So funerals are important on many different levels. Um, I'll conclude by saying that one of the major issues I think that we're facing is, and one of the reasons why funerals have become optional, is because people for too long now have associated with funerals not with what they do, but what they buy. So we've turned them into a retail event where special caskets need to be selected or, you know, customized urns are the focus instead of saying, well, are we actually getting together in person to hug each other, to cry, and to see this person into the earth or into the fire? And so, what we've done, and I think it's for the worse, we've tried to substitute that human event that requires participation with, well, what can we buy to make this meaningful? And eventually, that gets old. People say, you know what, we don't need to buy anything, and so we end up doing nothing. And to me, that's a real shame. So as a family, we truly really try to encourage people to consider what's the important thing to do, not what's the most meaningful thing to buy. I have nothing against cremation in and of itself. It's a beautiful and ancient form of disposition. It's as ancient as burial itself, and it's accepted by most Christian denominations at this point. In fact, the majority of Christians are cremated today. But what has happened is we've allowed cremation because of its efficiency and cost savings, and the fact that you can call somebody like myself and just give an authorization via email and get someone cremated without doing anything else, it's led to the idea of like we don't really need to do anything about this. And so I'm not opposed to cremation. I'm opposed to the ways in which we've allowed cremation to become a dehumanized industrial act, because it doesn't need to be that way.